As we celebrate with Sue Ambler on the occasion of her retirement, we thought it would be a good idea to look back over the events of her life and see if we could find out what made this remarkable woman the person we know her to be now. But to get an accurate history, you need a good source. So we went to the person who knows her the best, her husband, Lane Ambler.
Sue was born in Lafayette, Indiana, and her mom, Tina, and her father, George. George served in the military, in the Navy, and came out and had the GI Bill. And so he went back to school and got his degree at Purdue in engineering, and Boeing was where the jobs were at. And so they came out here, and Sue was 2 years old when she moved to Beacon Hill.
And according to Lane, Sue was proud of her South Side Seattle heritage. It's true she had big dreams of climbing to the top of a glamorous career, but she was not above working in her father's machine shop during her summer breaks. A trait that impressed Lane and that seems to persist to this day. Her father also gave her a love for an active life.
Her dad was into sailing, so Sue went along with sailing. She was a hot dog skier. Her dad took her a lot to Sun Valley, and she was used to racing ski. And when I first met her, I thought I was good at skiing, but I was not. and so through the years, I had to pick up the pace and catch up.
So how did it happen that this ambitious young woman came to meet and marry her working-class hero of a husband?
Well, when I met her, she was still going to WSU, and actually her plans were to go to New York, and she was going to do fashion design. And she fell in love, and she told me that. She says, yeah, I decided that it was more important to stay. And I really appreciate that, but she got a job at JCPenney's as a manager. Worked there for a couple years, and then after that, she decided that she wanted to pursue her own business, and she would design custom clothing for mostly women. And so I remodeled the basement, and I made fitting rooms and her sewing room and everything down there. And so she did that for quite a few years.
That entrepreneurial understanding of business would be a key to her later success and informed her decision to pursue more schooling.
And my wife always had a goal list of certain things that she wanted to achieve. And one of them was to get a master's degree. UW-Bothell was just opening up, and so at night we'd go there, and it was dark in the parking lot. And it was a warehouse district, they actually rented warehouse, and the lighting wasn't very good. And so we'd drive over there as a family, drop her off, and then we'd come back and pick her up at night. And she graduated, and then she started working at Bothell High School. And she was a intervention specialist. North Shore School District didn't have a program, so Sue started a program where these young people could come in and talk, and Sue would get services, and late at night she'd be getting phone calls from people, young kids that have problems. And so she did that for 7 years, and it kind of wore on her, But then the other schools had hired basically similar type people to help out because they had realized that there was this opportunity, and so it was pretty interesting.
Her success in working with high school students led to similar work at Cascadia Community College, where she was eventually connected with the Workforce Development Council of Snohomish County. While working on a program funded through a WDC grant, she impressed members of the board so much that, to her surprise, they asked her to become their chief operating officer.
She came home, we talked about it. At that time, I was like, why not? Why not? It's good for your growth. I mean, if it doesn't work, you were going to leave anyway, so, why not? And so she took on that responsibility, and a year later, Bryn resigned, and the board at that time asked Sue to step in as CEO, a temporary CEO. And I remember she came home again, she goes, I don't know if I'm qualified. I'm still trying to learn all the stuff and everything. And again, we talked about it, and I go, again, why not?
During her time as interim CEO, Sue recognized the need for organizational change, but was not sure it was the right time to assert herself. She came to her decision after Lane asked this critical question.
Are you the CEO or are you not CEO? And she goes, well, yeah, I am the CEO. Well, then do the job. And even if it's only 6 months or whatever, do the job that you think it needs to have done. We talked about it, and she goes, you're right. And so after that, she never looked back, and she calls the love boat. And she says it's hard to make turns, but she says that every once in a while that boat needs to make a turn. As a lot of you guys at WDC know, that all of a sudden you think things are running smooth, and Sue says, well, we're time to change the direction.
And as any staff member of WorkSource Snohomish can tell you, Sue's leadership is never stagnant. Here's Michael Choi, current COO, and a colleague who's worked with Sue since she started with the organization.
Sue, when she took the presidency 8 years ago, essentially brought that North Star and that direction and refocus back to the organization and to make this organization relevant in the community.
But what is it that has determined the priorities for Sue that has ultimately cast the vision for this organization?
I would say first and foremost a passion for the community in helping those that need the help. She's really passionate about at-risk youth. She mentions that is one of the highlights of her job. Secondly is, with her son now in the military and soon to be exiting the military, she is so fond of the veterans and all veterans for what they contribute to the country. And we opened up the Serve Center. And timing was very right because as soon as our Serve Center went up in parallel effort, we saw military support services down in Pierce County started arising and other places. So I think one person at the state criticized her and saying, Sue, the stuff you do, you're just ahead of your time. And another person in the room corrected them. No, Sue Ambler is on time. We need to catch up.
This is her journey. This is her time. I couldn't be more proud of her. She is the love of my life, and for her to get this opportunity, it's like about as good as it comes.